Hey, it's always good to hear that music, and it's always good because that means it's Wednesday afternoon, time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And let's get things underway with the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization. Here is Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thank you so much. You know, I was just looking at a calendar and realizing that as we sit here on Wednesday, October 12th. By the way, welcome to our Wednesday lunchtime get-together right here on 90.3 FM WEJF radio, and also welcome to those who catch us online at WEJF.net, and even those who will pick this broadcast up as a podcast because we put it out on everything from, iHeartRadio to Apple iTunes and so on and so forth. So thanks for tuning in to Helping Seniors. You know, we're the nonprofit that was organized by our president and founder, Joe Steckler, the gentleman who put together the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and their program with the Joe's Clubs, retired from that like 12 years ago and said there's more work we have to do for seniors, and created Helping Seniors of Brevard. So for 12 years, we've been operating the county senior information helpline, helping well over 7,000 families to date, free of charge as a charity service with our senior information helpline at 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770. And where I was going with that, by the way, was that I was looking at the calendar and saying, John, here we are on the 12th of October, and this Saturday, when we get to Saturday the 15th, you know, that is literally 2 weeks from the night that we do our big fundraiser grand drawing at the American Muscle Car Museum. That is going to be such an exciting moment, John. And I also want to get our guest in here to talk. We've got a great show for you today. It's always a pleasure to have noted area periodontist Dr. Lee Sheldon in the house. He has, I guess I would say you are the father of the practice of Sheldon and Furtado, PLLC.
So they're one of the Sheldons.
You are too. And right there on Sarna Road, which is just down the street from the American Muscle Car Museum. And we really are getting close to this. So if you don't have your Helping Seniors car raffle tickets, your office has those, don't they, Dr. Sheldon?
We have them right here. Come on into Solid Bite at 2223 Sarno Road, and let's get some tickets out to you so you can get a chance to win one of those cars.
Yeah, this is like really our big fundraiser for the year. It literally supplies well over half of our budget, and we cannot do the work that we do in the community if we don't get your help with this. And it's a fun thing. This is not hard work. I always tell people we've been out, Dr. Sheldon, at a lot of events here recently where we've been at car shows. A lot of the churches in the area have invited us to present at their services and things on Sundays. We've been out at a lot of the churches in our area and things like that. And this is a fun fundraiser. I remember Joe telling the story that he and AJ Hires got together. Literally, he said, I think it was 1996, if I'm not bungling the dates. And he said he was trying to figure out how he was going to raise money so he could help build those Joe's Clubs. And AJ's like, well, why don't we try to raffle a car or something? And so, as Joe says himself, he said, our efforts to raise money for a charity go back into the last century using car raffles to do it. But the car raffle just gets bigger and better every year. So this year, just to remind you, if you're not tuned in on this is the 6th annual Helping Seniors car raffle, and there are 4 amazing automobiles that you, as the winner, get to select from. They all come from the AJ Hires fine family of dealerships. You could choose a 2022 Chevrolet Camaro, 2022 Dodge Challenger, 2022 Kia Sportage, 2022 Mazda Miata. And I have to tell a funny story. I was literally in Atlanta, had flown into the airport because I had a business meeting up there, and walk into the lobby of the Atlanta airport, and there is a Kia Sportage. And I got to tell you, Dr. Sheldon, I was so tempted to run over and stick a couple of Helping Seniors car raffle brochures there and say, hey, you could win this car. Here's how you do it.
I would have bailed you out.
Okay. Well, so the point is, one ticket is a $25 donation, 5 for a $100 donation, and it really is that simple. When we get there on Saturday night, October 29th, at the American Muscle Car Museum, and we draw that winning ticket, When we call out your ticket number and your name, you get to decide which car you want to take home. Last year, David Odahowski, he chose the Kia Sportage. The year before, Troy Darling of Indy Atlantic, he wanted a Chevrolet Camaro. And the year before that, which is about as far back as I can conveniently remember, was 2019. And it was Karen Hoodless who picked a beautiful, beautiful red Dodge Challenger. So it'll be fun to see which car you pick when you get your tickets. And then the other thing, of course, is that the night at the museum, Saturday night, October 29th, 2022, is our night at the museum. And we're talking about the American Muscle Car Museum. And that, Dr. Sheldon, as you know, is literally right down the road from you. I talk to people a lot of times at car shows, and I'm surprised, and I guess it has to do with the number of people moving into Brevard County, that a lot of people still don't know that we have this treasure right here in our community. You've been out there, right?
I have.
Yeah.
I was, and to see the numbers of cars that are there, how beautifully they're taken care of. What a collection. This is not a collection that you would see in most areas, in most major cities. And we have it right here, right next to Walmart, right here, down the street from me.
I've had this conversation probably 100 times this year already. They say, oh, the American Muscle Car Museum, what is it? Where is it? And I say, well, do you know Sarno Road? Yeah, sort of. Do you know where the Walmart is there? Yeah. Do you know where you're getting on Sarno and you're kind of going back towards I-95 and there's this big, it's a gigantic like walled-in complex. It's got all these solar panels and things like that. They go, yeah. And I go, that's the museum. And the only way you can get in is when Mark Pylock opens it for a private event, which he does to help us with charities. And we've been very, very blessed to have him every year since he's been open. He's invited us back there for the grand drawing. And what a night that is. There's beer, wine, soda, everything is included. Sandwiches.
He provides it all.
Yes.
He provides it all. He doesn't just provide the Muscle Car Museum. He provides everything else.
Yeah, and then now they were telling me he's got 398 cars in there, and this is the fun thing. I was asking Andrew Mackey, who's the events manager there, because they let us in to come in and film a few things in some of the places that you'll see it on our Helping Seniors social media. And I said, how much is the front room worth now? He goes, because when I was here last year, you told me that he had just acquired a new car. It was like a $700,000 car. He had to get special permission for this Ford GT to be in there. And they literally had to go to Edsel Ford, the grandson or great-grandson. I mean, it was like this whole complicated thing. And so he goes, I think the front room's like $6 or $7 million. So I said, well, has it gone up? Everything's going up these days, it seems like. And he said, I don't even know what to tell you. He said, there's a car sitting in the center. He said, it's new to the collection. He said, what I can tell you is Mark traded 5 muscle cars and $5 million for that car itself. So even if you were there last year, you got to come out and see what's new at the museum, because it just gets better and better every year. So how do you get your tickets? We talked about one great way is to go by Dr. Sheldon's office. He's got them right there at Solid Bike Dental on Sarno Road. And number 2, you can call Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, at 321-473-7770. She'll get you squared away. If you're handy online, you just go to helpingseniorscarraffle.com and you can get them there. And any Boniface Hires dealership that you would go by has your tickets there. So it's a lot of great ways to get your tickets. It keeps us going. You get a great night at the museum. You do not have to be present to win, but if you're in town, don't miss the party. Of course, then you could wind up with keys to a brand new car. And so with that, I'm going to close that conversation. I'm really going to welcome you back because you, Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist, are freshly back from San Diego. And we were trading notes, and I was astounded because you're not afraid to tackle some really kind of what I would call controversial subjects if I'm thinking about it from your perspective. I mean, I remember a show we did called Are Too Many Teeth Being Extracted, which is not something you would expect somebody in the dental profession to feel like tackling.
Particularly one who extracts teeth and puts in dental implants. You're right.
right. And you've also not shied away from topics where we've talked about actually some of the challenges that dental implants can mean. And so you have talked about, the value of really examining what's going on in the mouth to make the best decision. And here you come again, kind of like puncturing another sacred cow. I would say.
You're right. And this time it was before a dental group. I actually spoke to dentists, hygienists, periodontists, and it was quite something, Kerry, to actually go out there, because I didn't know what kind of an audience I was going to have. The organization is called the Western Society of Periodontists. It encompasses periodontists and general dentists all the way from the state of Washington down to, I believe, the state of Arizona. So that's how big the organization is.
Wow.
And we were the last people, it was four of us who were speaking, another periodontist, John Sotosanti, and I were kind of the leaders of the band there, but we also had an attorney, and we had a hygienist educator, a dental hygienist who's been educating in dental schools for many, many years, talking about this subject that we've talked about here. Yeah. But to have gotten this title in Science-Based Approach to Prevent the Widespread Mismanagement of Periodontal Disease, to have that as a professional topic certainly drew some questions and certainly some attendance when they were giving out free food at the same time. Kerry, it was interesting because there was it was a group of about 200 people. It was the end of the day on Friday, so on a Friday, which was by the time we're listening to the show about 2.5 weeks ago, and they scheduled us at the end of the day. Now, it was an attractive topic, but they scheduled us at the same time as the vendors were passing out free food at outside, and still people chose to see us.
Wow. That's what I was going to say is that, if you think about it, it's ironic that the quote, the censors or whoever puts together the program would let you actually talk about what otherwise might be considered this taboo subject of mismanagement of periodontists. But it's actually a credit, right? When they're willing to not go around an elephant in the room, but actually hit it head on. And I think it's also a credit to the industry that you saw that kind of response on that afternoon.
Yeah, it's true. And so, give credit to the Western Society for actually scheduling the topic. That wasn't without controversy, and it wasn't without warning as to what we would say. Or maybe they were scared of what I would say because people know me. So, yes, even in San Diego, they know what I might say. So it was good, but we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. And essentially, we began the program by showing teeth that could have been extracted and often would be recommended for extraction. And we showed how these teeth, in the case, the first case that was shown, had been in place for 30 years. And you and I have talked about this. How many people have come to see us saying, they recommended that all of our teeth be extracted, and I've seen these patients for my entire career, and they still have their teeth. So that's the beginning of the mismanagement of periodontitis. The assumption that because you have periodontal disease, you're going to lose the teeth. And the answer, of course, as we've talked about, no, you're not. In many cases, these teeth can be not only saved, but they can be put back in health, which is the first point to make.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, because we have talked so many times on different radio and television programs that, there is this focus on, quote, selling of dentistry. And you've even acknowledged it could be even over the 50% mark. I mean, and we've talked about so often somebody will see a commercial or hear something about teeth in a day day or something like that, and they'll get all excited about that because they think it's like the path of least resistance. And I think that's, I was going to ask you, but I think that's why when you give a talk like this to dental professionals, but it has a lot of ramification for just us regular people as we come to see you guys.
Oh, absolutely. The patient has to come first. And unfortunately, there is the assumption out there that once you have periodontal disease, that's it. You're eventually going to lose your teeth anyway. You might as well get them out now before you lose more bone support, which is patently untrue. But that is the prevailing thought, even among dental professionals. That's why, we talk about getting a second opinion, why that could be so important. And we've talked about, I don't have to repeat it here, but we talked about the number of patients that we've seen, as I talked about, that one treatment had been recommended, and there was a far less invasive treatment that could be done that would be that would be suitable. Yeah, but Kerry, it isn't just in dentistry. I mean, they go to dental professionals, but if you're going to get a roof repaired, if you're going to rebuild a kitchen, if you're going to see a physician, isn't it necessary for us to go out and be able to be knowledgeable enough to make the decision for ourselves and maybe not rely on the first opinion all the time?
Oh, yeah. That's another thing. You've not shied away from that topic either. We've talked about on radio and TV. We talked about shows where you've talked about the value of second opinions and things like that. And I love it because an article that you've got coming out, this is actually going to be coming out in the November Helping Seniors newsletter. That's that we call it the Yellow Pages section of the Senior Scene magazine, the popular magazine that is available at more than 500 locations around Brevard County. And John Frederickson, the publisher, has kindly invited us to kind of usurp, we call it a magazine within a magazine, 12 pages every month. And you've got an article which I think listeners are going to enjoy hearing because this applies not only to dentistry, but just about every situation that you could run into. They told me that I need.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how, I was just, when I read that title, I thought about how many times I've heard that, whether it be from a car mechanic or or you go into last week it was, they told me I need a generator. It was that kind of thing.
Right. It's true. And when they tell you what they need, understand that all of us have different priorities at different points in our lives. That the person who's selling you this, and I am a salesman in my office, I guess, has different priorities, different times of his or her life, and maybe those priorities may not be your priorities. So within the medical and dental realm, and just before seeing you, I saw a patient who I'd seen and who we had done very well and got him on. What happened was that he looked for the best insurance program and therefore got the work done that he needed to get done. And now 2 teeth that were done have broken off. And I'm looking at him and saying, all right, some of the things that we got under control are no longer under control because certain principles weren't followed. And therefore we have to redo some of what was already done in order to be able to give you a good long-term result. Pays a certain amount, and we end up redoing all the work. And I think I said it to you on the last show, the most expensive dentistry is the dentistry that has to be redone, and that's the case where he is right now. And so I'm telling him, listen, it's going to cost literally tens of thousands of dollars to get this done. And his wife is there, and they said, whatever we need to do, let's do it. We don't want to get into that situation. We want to be able to think through a case, save the teeth we need to save, understand what outcomes are going to be before we do it, and know that the result that we're going to get is going to be the right result. Well, there's certain critical thinking skills that need to be done, and you have to be able to understand what's going on as the patient during the thinking process before you make that decision. Because once you've made that decision, then you've made the decision to get the work done in whatever way you've decided to do it. and then the consequences of that are variable depending upon the qualifications of the person who's doing the work. And that's why I emphasize specialty dentistry sounds expensive. Being a specialist sounds expensive, and maybe we are a little bit more expensive because there are certain requirements that we have in order to be able to get the work done properly that may not occur in every dental environment.
As you were going through that, then I think back to the library of helping seniors TV and radio programs that we've done together over the years. And there was one you did called The Importance of Dental Diagnosis. And again, it's kind of in that concept of they told me that I need. And by the way, listener, if you'd like, all these TV radio programs that we're referring back to, they're all available at helpingseniorsof.brevard.org. There's a whole, you can go find, you can search by topic. You can look up the TV programs, you can look up the radio programs, you can look up the articles that Dr. Sheldon has published in the Helping Seniors newsletter over the year. But the point was, you can also, by the way, find these on YouTube at Helping Seniors of Brevard and Facebook, because they're also archived there. But my point about the importance of dental diagnosis, that was not only applicable, actually, when you thought about specifically the dental office, but some of the principles that you were talking about in there kind of feed back into that whole thing about they told me that I need, because you as the consumer really want to make sure that you're following what needs to be done and the why of it. In fact, in this month's edition of Helping Seniors, your article was titled, "Our Treatment Coordinators Make All the Difference." And we talked about that actually on a radio show, last month, where we were talking about just that topic about it's so important that you as the customer understand what the strategy is and the plan is. And that's why you spend so much time training people in your office to be able to make sure that they know how to work with the customer just like that.
Exactly right. And the patient we just saw is seeing Laura. Laura was one of those treatment coordinators, and I left. The wife of the patient was there. She said, "You're so animated." I said, "Oh, I got to go up and do the radio show." So here I am, fully animated and ready to go. But why I left that conversation saying, listen, I've just dictated a whole lot of thoughts, and I've given it to Laura. Now, I expect you to spend a few sessions with Laura understanding what my thoughts are, because there are a number of options that you have in order to be able to get the mouth restored with implants, without dental implants, with orthodontic treatment, without orthodontic treatment. And there's certain ramifications to each. We want to make this decision the last decision we have to make, the last dental decision. So you and Laura are going to spend several hours. I guarantee it'll be several hours. You'll educate yourself to, all right, now you've got about 10% of what I said. Okay, you'll be working with Laura. The first time out, you'll get to 25% of what I've said. Now you'll move yourself forward, because in order to get from 25 to 50%, you'll have certain questions that you want to ask that need to be answered in order to be able to get to that next level of understanding. And then finally we'll get it, and then you'll understand what your options are, and then it's that point that you'll make the decision. In the meantime, we're going to have the orthodontist and Dr. Furtado and my son Matthew and I are going to be meeting together to talk about the options from our perspective. There's a lot of thought, or there better be an awful lot of thought, in a major reconstruction. A lot of thought in advance planning, just as you would have an architect draw up plans for a house. You just want to say, all right, here's the wood, let's build.
Right.
You just don't want to do that. And so there's an awful lot of thought, and sometimes we make architectural drawings. They're called diagnostic wax ups. Okay, diagnostic means diagnostic in order to be able to understand what the diagnosis is and what we can do. Wax up means essentially we take a model of your mouth and we erase some of the teeth on your mouth, particularly the teeth that are going to be replaced, and we put the teeth where we want them, and then we work backwards from where the tooth is supposed to be to where we need the correct gum tissue and bone tissue in order to be able to support those teeth, and then we work it through from end result back to what we need to do in order to be able to create the end result. It's a very interesting process, but it does take a coordination among the dentists as well as the laboratory technicians that we use in order to be able to come up with that plan. And then once we have that plan, then it's much easier to get to that final result.
Yeah. Well, we're talking with noted area periodontist Dr. Lee Sheldon of Solid Bite Dental. And before we get to mid-show break, real quickly, let's give a phone number if somebody has a question, wants to reach you and say, I like what you're talking about. I'd like to, I'd like to explore what my options are.
Yeah, and the phone number here is 321-259-8000. Jennifer usually takes those calls, but everybody in our office.
Sounds good.
Of course, $50 helping seniors abroad get the entire examination at no charge.
I like it. We got more Helping Seniors Radio right around the corner. See you on the other side of the mid-show break.
And good afternoon. Welcome back to the second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard for this Wednesday afternoon. A good conversation going on today. Let's get back to it with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Thank you, John Harper. Yes, we're having a great conversation with noted area periodontist Dr. Lee Sheldon. We've been sort of tackling this topic of a really what is an interesting conversation. It sort of spawns from the whole conversation that you had, Dr. Lee Sheldon, out at the Western Society of Periodontists out in San Diego, where you presented a topic that was slightly, I would call it controversial, science-based approaches to the widespread mismanagement of periodontitis. And so it led us down a really interesting conversation tree where we've been talking a lot about how you, as a dental patient, really can respond to the things that are really going to help you the most. In fact, we were kind of also previewing a little bit of an article that Dr. Sheldon has coming out in the November edition of the Helping Seniors newsletter, which gets published center section of Senior Scene magazine, called They Told Me That I Need. Welcome back, Dr. Sheldon.
Thank you, Kerry, and it's good to be back. It was it was an interesting time in San Diego. I look back and I'm picturing now Anna Pattison, who's the dental hygienist educator who's been around for many years, and she's well known by every hygienist in the country. And when she said, "It's fine, I've got to just tell you. I got to tell you. Here's the truth. Here's what's going on." And she showed a case. That apparently had been condemned. There was nothing that could be done. The gums were bleeding. Everything was bad. And she showed, in this case, a periodontal surgical procedure where the gums were just teased back a little bit. And guess what you saw on the root surfaces? Something we described a few months ago. Fractured calculus.
Right.
And there was a ton of it.
Wow.
And you couldn't feel it. The hygienist couldn't feel it. But, we use the endoscope. We place the camera down below the gum line so we can see it. But you can make a little incision in the gum line, and you can peel the gum tissue back, and you can see it that way too. And, of course, she showed not only what the gum tissue looked like and the amount of bone loss that was present because of that fractured calculus on the root, but then she meticulously cleaned the fractured calculus off. And then a few weeks later, the gum tissue is nice and healthy again.
Yeah.
We just had a case, and Dr. Furtado just showed it because we're so proud of this case. A patient had lost bone support. It was on a molar tooth. The molar teeth have two roots. Lower molar teeth have two roots. And the patient had lost bone all the way to the end of the root. And what we did was to do our procedures here, all non-surgical. And now we saw the patient, I think it was 6 months or 8 months later, and all the bone had grown back. So, the body can heal. If given the opportunities, if we just get rid of the infection, get rid of the toxins, detoxify the tooth, decontaminate the tooth, the body says, oh, I was rejecting it because it was contaminated. Well, now you remove the contamination, hygienist, periodontist, dentist, whoever does it. Now I want the tooth back. And so now I'll grow the bone back because now I've got a nice, clean tooth that wants to heal. And here's the bone. It grew all the way back. So this was a patient who had to have at least 10 millimeter pockets. For those of you who've had periodontal disease and you've heard this. And the pockets are gone. Just gone. So wow. That's what can occur. Once you extract the tooth is gone.
Yeah.
Nothing to do about it at that point. But if you treat the tooth and the tooth is capable of healing, then you don't have to extract the tooth. So this assumption is, oh, you got this, and therefore we need to extract the tooth. And the response from the patient is, well, it doesn't bother me when I chew. Why do we need to extract the tooth? That feeling you might have as a patient saying, that doesn't bother me, that might be a real good justifiable feeling where maybe it's a good idea to get a second opinion. Maybe it's a good idea to see a periodontist and see what the periodontist has to say about that before you make the decision to extract.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dr. Sheldon, because you were talking about the person who had been like literally a lifelong hygienist who's now very much at the forefront of training people as they're coming up in this. You're kind of like that. I've jokingly called you like the father of dental implants and things like that, because you were really part of that pioneering wave here, certainly in Brevard County from the get-go. And but I guess the thought is like, okay, you've been there, you've seen everything, you've done all this stuff, you're involved in some very, very complicated, serious kind of treatment programs to save teeth and to make the best of these complicated dental situations. But I guess the question is, at your age, you could be off on a cruise ship or just playing golf or something like that. What motivates you to kind of keep at it?
I have a good time here. Yeah, I do. I mean, here I am. I'm upstairs in my office talking to you right now. I'm not at the radio station. I'm right here.
Right.
I just came up and I saw I saw the patient. I have opportunities to teach others, and the San Diego trip was certainly an opportunity. I'm publishing all of those things that with a group of 5 very well-known periodontists around the country, and we're publishing in order to be able to establish guidelines. I feel that I have as good a time here, if not a better time here, than I do when I'm on vacation. So why should I? At the same time, I'm helping patients. I'm helping the practice. So I have a good time. So this is my hobby. I don't do the surgery anymore. I haven't done it in years, but this is my hobby and my profession at the same time. So why not stay here and just keep it going for as long as I can?
Well, not only that, but I mean, just from the outside looking in, it seems like you've invested a lifetime of experience and expertise. And in the olden days, people thought the word senior was a good word, right? Because you're a senior engineer, you're a senior specialist, you're a senior whatever, and it connoted you're the senior captain, or it connoted that you were a person who had really invested a lot of time and experience and education and gotten a great deal of knowledge and skill in the field that you're in. And so I guess that it's probably rhetorical, but that really would seem like to be your case where you've been doing this. So the wisdom that you have in examining and trying to figure out something to help a patient out is going to be far beyond that anybody could have if they were just a couple of years into it.
You make that point, and there was so much respect for seniors at one time, and there's a certain amount of respect for seniors now, and certainly I receive an awful lot of good strokes by being here at the office. But you're right. I mean, the fact is that I've seen it, or I've done it, or and by the way, there's sometimes that I see something for the first time, but far less often now than when I was 35 years old.
Sure.
So I can say, well, I encountered this, and this is what occurred, and that helps the patients, helps the doctors, so that there is some broad base or a knowledge base that people can work on. So when Danielle is going to other offices, as she's leaving tomorrow to go to another office next down South Florida, and then she'll be going to California to work with another office in November. She's bringing her experience base and to those doctors and to those patients. So when I'm working with those doctors and they're asking me questions about patients, which they do, I'm bringing them a little bit of a knowledge base there, which goes and helps their patients as well. So it's a good position to be in. Would I rather be 35 years old? I think so. But at this stage, there is something that I can offer that I might not have been able to offer Hafer at that age. So
yeah, it's like they say, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. And as a word to the wise youngsters, it does pay. It does make a lot of sense to listen to people who have been there, because this ain't their first rodeo.
And this is so applicable to every aspect of life, Kerry, isn't it? We're just not talking about dental care.
Right. Well, that was I wanted to ask you, let's talk about some, in general, what we're talking about is the value of experience and kind of like you as a consumer ferreting out when, they told me that I need, and these kind of things that we're confronted with in every aspect of life. But when you talk about things that go on in the dental chair and, how you've, like I said, you've been there, you've seen it all, the things that you were teaching these folks in San Diego at this Western Society of Periodontists, I guess again that sort of speaks from the wisdom that you've walked this road.
It is. I think the opportunities there, particularly for younger periodontists, was to at least be able to see, because understand, younger periodontists train differently from the way I trained. When I trained only to save teeth. Implants didn't start until I graduated from dental school. And it started 7 years after I graduated from dental school. So that's 7 years of practicing non-implant dentistry. I come to it from a different perspective than even a periodontal graduate student who goes to school for 3 years, and a good part of that is learning how to do dental implants and do dental implants correctly. Here I'm coming to it from a position of let's save teeth. Oh, here's this new thing, dental implants. I wonder where we can apply this. Oh, let's apply it here. Oh, that worked out well. Well, that didn't work out as well. And get the knowledge base that way. So we tend not to go into our history as much as we might, because there's an awful lot that we can learn from the fathers in our profession in periodontics as to what they were able to do in order to be able to save teeth. And I think the pendulum itself is moving a little bit. I mean, still you're seeing the commercials, dental implants. When we did our Google Analytics, it was dental implants. That's what people were clicking on more than anything else. But it is falling back in the other direction. Everything has its positives and negatives, and everything has its time where it's in the forefront, and maybe sometimes when we have to look at some of the older ideas and rejuvenate them, if you will. We didn't have the endoscope 40, 50 years ago, but we certainly had the ability to save teeth 40 or 50 years ago. Now we have an easier way, maybe a little more predictable way and a less invasive way of saving teeth by using the endoscope, and a talented hygienist at the other end of the endoscope can help people. But if we're looking at anything, if we're looking in the building realm, and there has to be some idea as to what you need to do in order to be able to provide a solid foundation in order to be able to build the building. If you're talking about roofing, there's a certain design in roofing that's going to be more predictable than other designs, and perhaps there's certain techniques that we need to use there. If we're talking about running shoes, anything, we got some running shoes yesterday, and I decided I told the wonderful salesperson that was with me, I'm saying, here's the problem I'm having, and she said, did you realize you have this, and there is something it has a 10 millimeter drop, and if we bought a shoe with only a 2 millimeter drop, it would do this and this and this. She had her knowledge, and she was able to change my shoe a little bit. Yeah. Understand, but I could have gone online and gotten the same sneakers, and repeated the same mistake. There is benefit in having knowledgeable people helping you in order to be able to make sure you don't make mistakes. That's what it bothers me a little bit, because I see so many of these commercials and dental commercials, and I do a lot of advertising too. I mean, you know that. But let's make sure that there's something else other than the ad, other than the brand name, that there are some people who may be a little bit more knowledgeable than others, who, and particularly in a complex situation, that you may want to go to them and rely upon them more than others. And of course, I tout my own field of periodontics. A periodontist has gone to school for 3 additional years after dental school in order to be able to help you make long-term decisions for your teeth, particularly when you have periodontal disease. And it's important that if you have periodontal disease, you see a periodontist in order to be able to make the best decisions for yourself.
Yeah, no doubt. We're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon, noted area periodontist with the practice of Sheldon and Furtado, PLLC, Solid Bite Dental. And, I was just going to say thank you for bringing that point up, Dr. Sheldon, because as you know, our theme at the Helping Seniors nonprofit this year has been getting your ducks in a row, which is our euphemism for what our president and founder, Joe Steckler, calls designing an aging plan. It just means you're putting together, it doesn't mean you want to run into a problem. It just means you're thinking through how you're going to tackle things that you might encounter on the way. And the corollary that we've been learning all year as we've been talking with everybody from elder law attorneys to financial experts to home health experts and things like that, we keep learning this concept, we call it don't try this on your own. And so in that don't try it on your own situation, that's really what you're talking about here, Dr. Sheldon.
I think don't try it on your own, because there's some people who've left dentistry because they feel that dentistry can't provide them with anything, and we see an awful lot of those patients coming back. But there are decisions that need to be made, and there are professionals who are attuned to helping make those decisions. And so I do want you to make your decision, and I want an awful lot of thought from the patient, because I want the patient to understand the different options, but ultimately I want that patient to be able to make the decision with a full knowledge base before embarking on particularly expensive dental care.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense. So, Dr. Sheldon, I'm going to shift gears because I want to get in a word about our Helping Seniors Foundation cruise. But I want to make sure people know how to reach you. And also, real quickly, the really great offer that also helps fund the work of helping seniors, but gets you in a great place to understand everything that we've been talking about to get the best idea of what's going on in your mouth. And that's your Solid Bite Gives Back program.
Solid Bite Gives Back program is one that we're very proud of, and what that essentially what that is for you is that you donate $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard, write the check, bring it to our office, and you'll get the entire examination, X-ray, CT scan, all at no charge. And just call our office at 321-259-8000, and we'll give you more details on that.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely a great benefit to us. And so let me say that there's not a deadline on that particular offer, other than the sooner you call and get in there, the sooner you'll have an idea of getting a real good sense. Like we said, don't try this on your own. Get the value of expert opinion. Maybe you saw a commercial or something and it got you thinking, but let's get some real understanding before we just spring into action. But there are a couple of things that you have to spring into action about, and so let me give you those deadlines. The first one we talked about pretty extensively in the first half of the show. That is Saturday, October 29th. It's the 6th annual Helping Seniors Car Raffle. If you're going to be in it, you got to be in it before that date, or you'll miss the chance to perhaps drive off in a brand new car, and you will certainly miss the great party that we have at the American Muscle Car Museum Saturday, October 29th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So again, how do you get your tickets? One for $25, $5 for $100 donation. You could stop by Dr. Sheldon's office right there on Sarno Road. They've got tickets and be happy to get you set up. You can call Nancy Deerdorf, 321-473-7770. Let me say that number again, so I'll give you a second to grab a pencil, but it's 321 1-800-473-7770. You can also get them online, helpingseniors.carraffle.com, or pop by any of the Boniface Hires dealerships. Those are the fine folks who help us get the car that you're going to win, hopefully, on October 29th. But the other deadline, and this is kind of around the corner, this is actually this Friday, October 14th. And to be honest, it may be extended. We just honestly don't know. I'm talking about the 2023 Helping Seniors Foundation cruise. It's actually 2 cruises, maybe even 3, depending on how you look at it. We're going to sail on the luxurious MSC Meraviglia. There's a 2-night sailing that departs January 6th, a 7-night sailing that departs January 8th, or you could put them together and come with us for all 9 nights, which is what a lot of people doing. And Dr. Sheldon, there's already over 100 people booked, but what Chris Morse, who directs the Helping Seniors Travel Club, was explaining, and by the way, why do we call it the Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise? Because you get an incredible value. You're going to be traveling with folks who are local to Brevard County, so you'll see at least 100 people, probably as many as 200 people on board right here from Brevard County. We sail right in and out of Port Canaveral, so you don't have to get on a plane or even take a bus down to Miami or something like that. You just get somebody to drop you off at the port, and we're off sailing. And it's a great value, but that's the part that I have to say is a bit under deadline. What happens is you have to be in it by the 14th, which is basically the 90-day mark that the cruise line sets. And Chris feels like he's going to be able to extend the offer, but he doesn't control that. The cruise line has to come back and tell us, yes, we can continue to honor these rates beyond the 14th. So we don't know for sure, but I can tell you what the rates are right now. The rates are for the 2-night Ocean Cay Marine Preserve Getaway Cruise sailing January 6th. You get a balcony with all taxes, port charges, and gratuities for just $264 a person. You can't get a hotel beachfront for that. And this is 2 nights, includes all your meals, great entertainment on this luxury sailing vessel. So if all you have time for is a weekend sailing, you could do that. And if you are able to go with us for the 7 nights, listen to this. This is an incredible value if you know anything about cruise ship prices. He was able to negotiate $842 per person for a balcony cabin. So that includes your cabin, all port charges, taxes, gratuities. But get this, it includes your onboard Wi-Fi, and it includes the MSC drink package. So if you've ever been cruising, you know that ends up being like $30, $40 a day per person. So all that's included at your $842. But that pricing is only guaranteed through the 14th of October, and here we sit on Wednesday, October 12th. So you want to make sure that you give Chris a call today and at least see if you want to be in it by that date. Hopefully, we're going to be able to extend it, but we just don't have control, so we don't know. And the reason you want to go with us is because it's going to be a great cruise with local friends. You're supporting the work of Helping Seniors, and it's just going to be a great time at sea. How do you reach Chris Morse at the Helping Seniors of Brevard Travel Club? You reach him at area code 818-430-1480. Let me say that number again, 818-430-1480. Or you can connect with the Helping Seniors office at 321-473-7770, and Nancy will make sure that you get a call back from them because cabins are going fast on that, and we're hopeful that they're going to extend that time, but we don't know that for sure. And Dr. Sheldon, you've been cruising quite a bit, so you know about the pricing, and that is just an unbelievable price.
It's true, and I've also been on MSC. We have not been on the Meraviglia yet, but we were on the Divina, and what a wonderful, wonderful ship. It's fantastic.
It's a beautiful ship. And listen, there's actually a bonus round that we had wanted to do this before, but we kind of got COVIDed out on this. We had invited a local jazz big band singer named Lori Hafer and her husband Mike Hafer to join us to provide entertainment specifically for our Helping Seniors of Brevard group. And so she and her husband are going to join us on the 7-night portion of the sailing. Who is Lori Hafer, you may ask? She was part of the Hillside Singers, which had the the worldwide hit that everybody today still calls the Coca-Cola song, I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. It was actually her mom, and a couple of other folk singers, and her dad, who was a quite famous producer by the name of Al Hamm. He produced all these early Tony Bennett hits, Johnny Mathis hits, and so Lori grew up in a musical family, has always loved that kind of music. She spent a lot of years touring the world with everybody from Glenn Miller Orchestra to the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, Les Brown Band of Renown. In fact, she was the featured singer out in Branson for many years when Les Brown had the show out there. So she's kind of like a local musical celebrity who's going to come sailing with us on this sailing, which is, again, that would be the January 8th sailing of MSC Meraviglia. So when you come with us on that sailing, you're not only going to get just a great fun sailing on one of the most beautiful ships at sea, the MSC Meraviglia, but you're also going to get a great itinerary. The 7-night cruise is actually Bahamas, Mexico, so you're going to call on Cozumel, Costa Maya. You're going to stop in, I believe, Nassau. Certainly you're going to tour the MSC private island, which they call Ocean Cay, and that's a real experience. Dr. Sheldon, were you at Ocean Cay when you were on the MSC ship?
We were. It was quite relaxing, and the food was fantastic. So, yes, we were. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different because if you've ever been to some of the other cruise lines' private islands, they're a little bit more carnival and high, like water slides and all those kind of things. But this was designed to really be, first of all, a marine preserve. So it's absolutely spectacular. MSC is so committed to the environment and all those kind of things that they actually took what was a garbage dump. I'm sure they told you the story on the ship, but this was actually one of the garbage dumps in the Bahamas, and they wanted to prove that you could use sound ecological principles and turn it back into the paradise that it once was, and that's exactly what it is now. Did they give you all that story when you were on the ship, I'm sure?
I did not know that story, Kerry, no.
Yeah, and so when you go there today and it's spotless and it's just got beautiful landscaping, beautiful beaches, beautiful, the water is so clear, and I mean, people who snorkel and stuff like that or scuba, they think it's a great place to be, but it was actually a garbage dump in the 60s, and MSC acquired it and said, we're going to show you that you can respect the sea and do these things, and that's exactly what they did with that island.
I'll tell you, the opportunity that Chris has provided and the prices that he's provided is just it's just wonderful. If you take a look at the buffets and even the sit-down service there, the food is great. The entertainment is fantastic. We were on the Divina, which is the older ship.
Yeah.
Meraviglia is a relatively new ship. It was built in 2017. It's a big ship. It's a big ship. It rivals the big ships that you've heard about with all of the services. But I'll tell you, the people are just so friendly. People are so nice, and good opportunity for people our age to, and even younger, because there were some kids on the ship as well to just have a good time. But we look forward to being in the Meraviglia. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a great ship, and we are so looking forward to it. Chris Morse is who you want to call, 818-430-1480. Ask him about the Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise. Thanks, Dr. Sheldon, and thank you, listener, for joining us. We'll see you next week right back here on the Helping Seniors Radio Show. On behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, Nancy Dierdorf, our operations director, and our whole team, hope you have a great week till then.